Hello, Super Geeks. Today we're going to take a quick look, or a first look, at Splunk. Splunk is like log management on steroids. It's a really, really easy system to set up and also to use. And we're going to take a really quick look at what I've done. This is not going to be in depth. This is just a first look. So the first thing I had to do is go in and sign up on the Splunk website, and then I downloaded the Splunk software. I went to the free Splunk option, and then I chose the software for Linux. And in this case, I'm running it on my Linux Mint system so that I can also have the GUI and have the web interface and everything. And when you're up there, you can also download the universal forwarders as well. And with the universal forwarders, you'll notice that there are a lot of different operating systems that are supported. And the forwarders are for external machines to go to your main Splunk management console. This would be somewhat similar to like if you use Nagios for monitoring, how Nagios will have like remote Nagios that will send information up to your main Nagios system. So once you get Splunk down, you install it on your system. And there's a couple of different ways on Linux you can do it. You can do it with a package, or you can do it with just unzipping the files. The first time I did it on a CentOS system, and I used RPM package, and it put it under /opt, which is where they recommend putting it. The second time I did it using just the tar file and unzipped it under /opt. And it goes under /opt/Splunk, and then all of the binary files that you use to run it are under /bin. When you start it the first time, it's going to ask you for an admin password. After that, it just starts. And at the very, very bottom, it'll give you a listing of where you can go to actually get into the console and what port it's at. And by default, it's at port 8000. So if you have a firewall set up on your workstation or on your server that's running it, you will have to open up port 8000, and that gets it started. So then you point to the installation and you get this login page. And in this case, I've already saved the password. So you put the admin and then the password that you created when you first started it up, and you click sign in, and it will go into the console. Now, I've already used this a little bit, so I've got a couple of logs already set in here. But let me show you real quick how easy it is to add additional logs that it's going to index and make available for you. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up just a little bit. And I'm going to go in here for add data. And we'll go to add data. We have upload files. So if you have just local log files that you just want to have a one-time upload, then you can upload them into Splunk for it to index them, and you can go through them. Monitor is for files imports on the actual Splunk indexer machine. And then if you've got files coming in from another system, let's say a web server or a database server or something like that, you would use that forwarder we talked about, and then the forwarder is going to send information into this Splunk instance. And setting up the forwarder is pretty much almost as easy as it is just setting up the main Splunk indexer system. You bring down the universal files, you stick them on the system, you give it an admin password. There is a little bit of configuration on the main Splunk indexer server for what port you want it to listen to, and then you tell it what you want it to send, and you start it and have it run in the background. And then it will just send all the information up into Splunk. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on Monitor. And then next, I'm going to go into Files and Directories, because I'm looking for the log file that I want to add to the system. And I'm going to click Browse for the files, and it shows me all the source files in the server that I'm on here. And I'm going to go down to var, then to log, then to Apache 2, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the error log. Now, you could just grab a directory, and it will grab all the files below that directory, but we're just going to grab just the one file. And we've got it set to continuously monitor, so as changes happen, it will be bringing them constantly up into Splunk, into the indexer, to deal with it. If you do an index once, it's going to be a single point in time. If you're doing a whole directory, you have whitelist or blacklist where you can select individual files in that directory as well. So after I do that, I hit next, and you can see across the top exactly all the steps we're going to go through. The next thing it's going to do is for source type, it's select Apache underscore error. So it's realized that this is an Apache error log. This is like the parser of the file. So um, most of the time, there's a lot of them that it will automatically understand. But if it doesn't, sometimes you have to kind of work through that, how it's going to parse out the file. And then I'm going to go ahead and click next. And for input settings, I'm going to leave these all at the defaults. And I'm going to go ahead and click review. And review is basically saying, here is what you've told me so already about how to handle this file. And is this the way you want to do it? And if not, I can hit back and make some adjustment. And I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. Once I've submitted the file, then it's already inputted successfully. I could start searching on it right here, or I could do other work. I'm going to go ahead and hit start searching. And it brings up the log file, and it gives us a search string. So the source is the Apache 2 error log. Host is the name of the machine. So this is from this machine. So that way I know that I'm getting just the error log from steam powered and not from some other, obviously if I have multiple systems, I could determine which system I wanted it to come from. And we have this, obviously this is just a demo environment, and even the Apache is just basically straight out of the box. So there's really not much here. But here's the error log that we have. And you can see that it's got like the process ID and some other information. And as I hover over it, different things will highlight, and I could filter on those to narrow this down even more. Obviously, like I said, we don't have a whole lot in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to search. And this will bring us back into search environment where I can type in a search string. I do have a search history here, and this is showing me some of the different searches that I've done so far. And you can see I've done a little bit of work with the syslog, and I'm going to go and I'm going to add this to the search. And so the source is syslog, and the host is steam powered, and the source type is it's a syslog. Now, when I go in next, I'm going to say, okay, what is my time frame? And I'm going to put it for the last 7 days because I have this machine up and down a lot. So 24 hours might give us some really kind of weird results. And then I'm going to hit search. The thing that I really like a lot that I've noticed about Splunk is when it first comes up, we've got this little timeline here where it shows where events are showing. And like I said, this machine is not up all the time. So it's really sporadic what we have here. But if it was up all the time, you would see a much more detailed graph here. And then here is the actual raw log. Again, I have fields along the side that I could drill down through. But I could also go up in here and I can highlight different sections and be able to take a look at narrowing it down based on it. So like, let's say if I want to look at DHCP4 change, if I click on this, I can add it to the search or I can exclude it from the search. So if I click there, now it's only going to give me items that are DHCP4-change that are in the log, and it's added it to the search string at the top. So number one, it makes it really easy to click down through and see what's going on. But it also helps me over time to kind of learn some additional things about how to put those search strings together, what it's doing exactly. So that's kind of nice. And when you're working with log files, if you don't have something like that, a lot of times it can get to be really kind of difficult to work your way down through drilling down into a log file. Another thing that I wanted to point out, we're back at the main search screen, and if we click on reports, you can set up your own reports, and they do have some basic reports already put into the system. Like, for example, we have errors in the last 24 hours. And if we look at the search itself, what we're going to see is that it's looking for error or failed or severe or a 404, 500, or a 503. So it's looking for these different things in the search through the log files. And I'm going to go back to reports. And now if I click on the report again, it brings it up. And then I see the line items that have error in it. Again, because this is just a trial machine, it does not have a whole lot in it. But this is one of those things where you can define reports for maybe the last 24 hours or the last 7 days for different features. It doesn't just have to be errors, whatever you need to run reports on. So that's the basics of Splunk. I don't really have enough information in this to put a nice dashboard together, take a look at some of the other graphing and such, simply because it's a demo environment without much data behind it. But in looking at the videos, there's a lot you can do with graphs and taking a look at lining them up for different things. Maybe you have CPU and disk space and network load, for example. And if you're experiencing slowdowns, you can then line up those graphs one on top of the other and look when you have spikes maybe in CPU utilization, where else are you seeing those spikes that line up? And you may have a correlation, and then from there you can drill down through those to then find exactly what might be causing the slowdown, causing the spike in CPU utilization. Sometimes you might find an application that has a problem. From a security standpoint, you may find that you're running into issues with people hitting the system, maybe trials over and over and over again. You could also set triggered alerts so that you can look in the logs for events that are potentially security problems and have them then be reported out to you and alerted so that you know, even in the middle of the night, all of a sudden you might get a text or a page or something saying there's a problem in the system, come take a look because we've noticed this threshold being crossed. So that's Splunk. Go ahead, go up onto their website and download a trial copy. And I think you're going to find that it is an amazing product. And I love the fact that you can actually give it a really solid try right from the get-go without even having to pay anything. So have a nice day.